You want a go-anywhere, do-anything SUV that can also work as a daily driver? Well, the Ford Bronco might just be the ticket, but it is not without some potential deal breakers. And trust us, we put 40,000 miles on one, so we really know this car.
Edmunds drives, tests, and rates hundreds of cars each year. As trusted experts, we've teamed up with CarMax to help you make the best car buying decision.
The Bronco is Ford's big truck-based SUV, not to be confused with the smaller Bronco Sport that's more related to the Ford Escape. It's available with 2 or 4 doors, and all Broncos come with 4-wheel drive. The main competitor? Well, it's the Jeep Wrangler. Both vehicles share a boxy profile, serious off-road capability, and have the ability to remove the roof and doors. Now, buyers after a rugged SUV like this may also be interested in the Toyota 4Runner. This is the 6th generation of the Bronco. It's the one that Ford brought back in 2021 after having sold some version of the SUV from the 1960s to the 1990s. And used value here is interesting. When we looked at prices of 2023 model year examples of the Bronco, Wrangler, and 4Runner, the Bronco and the 4Runner were about the same, but the average Jeep Wrangler sold for about $10,000 less. That is a huge difference, but it's worth remembering that a base Wrangler from that time, it was between 5 and 10 grand less than a base Bronco or 4Runner, and it was super basic. If you're looking at comparable equipped models, the prices are much closer. But price doesn't really matter if you're going to be paying a lot for repairs or you've got bad crash test ratings, right? Edmunds has owned this vehicle for a long time, and we put over 40,000 miles on it as part of our 1-year road test fleet. And during that time, not everything has been puppy dogs and rainbows. We've had to repair the 4-wheel drive system. The handle on the cargo space in the back, well, that broke. The car continually gives us fake alerts when it comes to the blind spot monitoring and the rear cross traffic alert systems. And we've broken some stuff on the inside. We also read countless reports among our owner reviews of glitchy tech, water leaking through the roof, even engine and powertrain failures. The Bronco has a lot going for it, but by many accounts, reliability ain't one of them. And what about crash tests? Well, NHTSA did not do a full round of tests, but our 2023 Bronco received the highest possible rating in most of the IIHS crash tests when it was new, although it never received a top safety pick due to mediocre headlights and some difficulty with installing car seats. Okay, so the Bronco is relatively expensive used, and the Edmunds ownership experience, well, wasn't really the best, but the Bronco can do things that other SUVs just can't. So let's go over the reasons why you might pick or pass on this one. Now, the Bronco doesn't drive like, let's say, a Toyota RAV4, but if you drive it back-to-back with other off-road SUVs, like, say, a Wrangler or a 4Runner, it is terrific. That's because truck-based SUVs like the Bronco often have really sloppy and loose steering with a big dead spot in the center where you'll turn the wheel and then nothing really happens. Now, this setup is good for off-road, but you probably spend most of your time on the pavement. If you've ever driven a Wrangler, especially a Rubicon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that can really hurt your confidence when you're driving around a corner. But more noticeably, when you're on the highway, it means that you have to make constant little steering corrections just to keep the thing pointed straight, and that is super annoying and tiresome. But not in the Bronco. Here, the steering response is immediate. There isn't any dead on center spot, and it's accurate enough that cornering and parking is just as easy as in any old regular SUV. And when you get to the highway, you just put one hand on the steering wheel, relax and cruise. And what's more, when you're buying a Bronco, you have the choice between 2 pretty powerful turbocharged engines, a 4-cylinder and a 6-cylinder. Both feel more confident and more responsive than what you get in most Jeeps or in a 4Runner. A lot of drivers will like the seating position in this car too. You sit up high with a commanding view of the road, and it makes you feel powerful. And we haven't even talked about going off-road. The Bronco is perfectly suited for the trail with a great 4-wheel drive system and plenty of off-road drive modes. One thing a lot of people might not notice is that the Bronco has really short front and rear overhangs. That's the amount the bumper sticks out past the wheel. That means that you're way less likely to scrape a bumper on steep trails. And some versions like this one, you get a lifted suspension, trail-ready tires, and some extra off-road hardware to keep you moving when the going gets tough. The interior is another relative strong point, and nothing feels cramped up here like it does in the Wrangler and the 4Runner. And these seats are so comfortable, and there's a lot of adjustability for different body types, unlike in the Wrangler, which really kind of forces you to sit straight upright. Ugh, it's no good. And when we tested this car in our 1-year fleet, the seats were never uncomfortable, even over road trips that were like 1,000 or 2,000 miles long. And we really like the tech and controls here. Ford gives us a lot of big, chunky knobs and buttons, so it's easy to see and find if you don't want to take your eyes off the road, and they're really easy to manipulate, say, if you're wearing gloves or if you have any kind of hand mobility issues. I mean, there is something to be said for ease of use. We'll admit the physical lever for shifting between 2- and 4-wheel drive in a Wrangler or a 4Runner is super satisfying, but it can be a little hard to use, and it eats up real estate that could be used for small item storage or other features. So this Bronco's electronic controls, they're easy to use and they're out of the way. And lastly, the tech in here is really good. It's way better than what you would get in the Wrangler or 4Runner, even from just a few years ago. Now, this is the base 8-inch screen, but you can get a big ol' honkin' 12-inch screen that really helps the Bronco feel like it's not just some beast that's living in the past. Now, we don't often touch on this in used car reviews, but in our experience, the Bronco just has that certain, X factor that really makes people fall in love with it. Just look at this thing! We love the round retro headlights, the Bronco lettering across the grille, and that boxy shape just screams classic off-roader. This is one of the best modern retro classic designs we have seen in years. And it's awesome that you can take off the roof and the doors, even if in our testing over 3 years of ownership, we didn't actually do it much. The off-road capability makes it feel like you can go anywhere. There are tons of factory customization options since so many owners love these cars and want to modify them. So you'll have to do your research when shopping used. And Ford even put these fun animations in the car to really hammer home that trail-ready spirit. And there are plenty of Easter eggs around the cabin too. It's really fun. And there's something about the Bronco that just makes you smile. It makes you happy to see it in your driveway. But if we're being honest, there is plenty that would steer us in the other direction. Now, we stand by the fact that the Bronco is better to drive than the Wrangler or the 4Runner, but that doesn't mean that it's good. It's just not going to feel the same than the Toyota RAV4 that you might be used to. One thing that came up constantly, both in our test notes and in owner reviews, is road noise. Whether you have the soft top or the hard top, the Bronco is unbelievably loud inside, especially on the highway. The upright windshield and front end mean that the Bronco has terrible aerodynamics, and it creates a lot of wind noise. Plus, both roof options have ceiling issues, which catches the wind and then lets the sound in, and there's a lot of tire noise, especially if you have the all-terrain tires like on this car. Seriously, if you're used to something like a Toyota RAV4, you probably won't like how loud this thing can get. We also test every car that comes through the Edmunds garage, and one thing we've noticed with the Broncos we've strapped our test gear to is that braking takes more distance than similar SUVs. So we measure how many feet it takes to emergency stop from 60 miles per hour, and the Bronco takes around 20 extra feet compared to a regular non-truck based SUV. That's basically a car length. A Wrangler is similarly bad, but a 4Runner actually stops just as short as the non-truck based options. And there are some practical reasons that make the Bronco a compromised daily driver. I mean, this thing is really high off the ground, and that is especially true for the extra off-roady trims. It makes it really hard to get in and out. We have got a variety of testers over at Edmunds, and even the taller folks complained about this, and shorter people, well, they were very, very hesitant to take the keys. Plus, it makes it difficult to get a car seat installed in the rear. Related, the cargo space in the Bronco is not all that great, but it doesn't have to do with the amount of space itself. we've had our testers point out a couple of things to us. First of all, the soft top makes it really difficult to access that cargo space. You're much better off getting the hard top. Those second row seats, they do not fold down flat, so it is a kind of a pain to load up larger items, and the load floor height is a lot taller than what you would find in a non-off-road SUV, so yeah, good luck loading up that heavy cooler for weekend adventures. You're gonna need some muscle. So the Ford Bronco is a charming off-roader that has a better interior and driving experience than much of its competition, but it still makes a ton of compromises when compared to other SUVs. So what do you think? Is the Ford Bronco right for your lifestyle, or is there a better choice? Let me know in the comments, and as always, we'll see you next time.